time for our weekly lineup primer video. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you drop a like and also make sure you're subscribed because we're doing this every single week. Last week, I lost to Nathan because I'm stupid. And so competition this year is 1-1. Let's get into this. I'm going to start with my first guarantee of the week, and I'm going to go with Jameson Williams. What I'm looking at in this matchup for JMO as the wide receiver 2 there is, number one, the matchup is very good. The Baltimore Ravens historically over the last year and also in the first couple games this year have allowed a lot of points to wide receivers. Last year, third most amount of points to wide receivers in fantasy football. So I like the matchup on that end. Not to mention when you're looking at the Vegas lines for this game, looking pretty good for both of these teams. So it projects to be a high scoring game all around. Jameson Williams is a guy that even if he only has 2 targets or 2 receptions in the day, he can still score you like 12 points because he can go 2 for 50. He can put up the Randy Moss stat line. And so in a game where I think they're going to be taking a lot of shots downfield, I like Jameson Williams here. I like the matchup for him. I like the Vegas line. So I'm going to go JMO as my first guarantee for this week. Put him in your starting lineups.
I'm going to go with Jaylen Warren as my first guarantee this week. He's obviously been a shaky start the first couple of weeks, but he's delivered both in both matchups against the Jets and the Seattle Seahawks, 13 and 17 points respectively. The volume and the opportunity isn't going to blow anybody away. Honestly, his snap share is middle of the road at best. His opportunities on the ground are anywhere from like 10 to 15 carries a game. And who knows, that could eventually go down, whether they want to get Kenneth Gainwell more involved or actually give the ball to their third-round pick, Caleb Johnson, at some point. At this point, it's not looking like that. But I will say against New England, in a game where in week 2, Devon Achane just went off against New England's defense, and Miami actually showed that they can be a little bit productive, which is a big deal for them. I'm looking at the Steelers taking on New England and Jaylen Warren specifically having a really, really solid day. What I was really encouraged by in the Seattle matchup is that you saw him not score a touchdown, but you saw that receiving usage go up. And he is so efficient with his receiving usage. I'd like to see that continue. I expect it to continue with Rodgers just at this point in his career, probably the last year of his career, just needs a little more help in the short to intermediate game if he needs to dump it off because he's not as elusive in the pocket as he used to be in years past. So big day for Jaylen Warren, I expect.
Look, so we had Tony Pollard on our matchups as a meh, and actually we did have him as a start. I like him as a start this week. He's going to be one of my guarantees because he's playing the Colts. And this has backfired me in the past where I, pick a guy that's going up against the Colts. They actually don't have him doing that well. My guess is Tony Pollard. He's had a slow start to the year. I'm guessing they're going to be able to slice up the Colts defense and get in the end zone at least once for Tony Pollard. So I'm thinking he's going to get 12 plus points this week. I'm comfortable throwing Tony Pollard in as my last flex option, even though when you're looking at his success as a bell cow so far this year, it's not been great, not efficient, not a lot of touchdowns. This week, I think he scores a touchdown or 2, so I'm putting him in my lineups in my flex spots. Tony Pollard's my second guarantee of the week.
I'm going to bet for the second week in a row. I know this is risky with a guy like George Pickens, but I'm going to double down with George Pickens this week. I was right last week about him having a big day against the Giants. I'm going to bet on it again this week against Chicago, which on paper looks like a better matchup, or I guess a tougher matchup for George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb than the Giants would be. But Jalen Johnson is out for a significant amount of time for the Chicago Bears, which shakes everything up in that secondary. And you saw them just allow 52 points to the Detroit Lions offense, which I understand is a much better, much more explosive, all-around, more complete offense collectively than a team like the Dallas Cowboys. But I think we've learned, if anything, in the first 2 weeks of the season that, number one, Javonte Williams is going to get his own, but if they want to win games, they have to pass the frick out of the ball. I mean, Dak Prescott looked really, really good against the Giants. 52 pass attempts, 34 pass attempts against Philadelphia, one of the better defenses in the NFL. I think you're going to be looking at 35-plus passing attempts for Dak Prescott from here on out if they want to not just be competitive, but win games. And I think George Pickens is going to be obviously a big beneficiary of that. He's a number 2 option there. CeeDee Lamb is going to get his own all the time. But George Pickens, I think, is a really great contested catch guy that you can get the ball to on the outside. And Dak Prescott, honestly, is playing some of the best football that I've ever seen him play. So I think he's more than capable of getting George Pickens to be consistently productive this season.
My last guarantee of the week here is going to be DJ Moore. This is, again, a game that I want to start some of these players in. Dallas-Chicago projects to be a high-scoring matchup. Chicago, the Vegas lines for Chicago's implied points is high. They have a green Vegas light for me this week. And so when you're looking at the matchup, I do like the matchup against the Dallas Cowboys defense. I do like the scoring that's going to happen in this game. Last year, the Dallas Cowboys allowed the 7th most amount of points to wide receivers. And so DJ Moore so far hasn't really been able to get going, 8 and 9 points. My guess is they use him a little bit more in this game, in a game where they should be able to pass the ball with more success. And DJ Moore obviously is always going to have red zone and touchdown upside. I'm going to bet on that in this game. I like starting wide receiver 2s in this matchup, Pickens and Moore, so I'm going to go DJ Moore as my guarantee here.
Hollywood Brown was a little bit of a disappointment last week, which was unfortunate in a matchup against Philadelphia. But again, it was a matchup against Philadelphia. He goes from 16 targets against the Chargers to only 5 targets against Philly. I mean, you just saw what Dak and CD and Pickens and Devonta did to that Giants defense. I think Hollywood's going to ball, and I think that you're going to see a passing offense that looks pretty lackluster for the Chiefs, show some signs of life before Rashid comes back after his suspension in Week 7. I think you're going to see that against the Giants in Week 3 before they have a tough matchup in Week 4 against Baltimore. So wheels up for Hollywood. I would still be flexing them.
All right, now to our sits for the week. My first sit's going to be Wan'Dale Robinson. I think a lot of people are going to be tempted to start Wan'Dale after last week and honestly Week 1. And, realistically, I don't expect Russell Wilson to throw for 450 yards again this week. I don't expect the Giants' passing offense to be near as good as it has been in the first 2 weeks because they have a stiffer competition this week in the Kansas City defense. And so my guess is that Kansas City's defense kind of clamps down on this New York Giants passing attack. I think Malik Neighbors will probably get his own against this, even against going like Trent McDuffie, but I don't honestly think that Wan'Dale's going to have that big of a week. I'm not looking at Wan'Dale as somebody that I want to start this week, so I'm going to sit him in my lineups.
I am totally out on Tyron Tracy from here on out, guys. I know that he had 9 points against Dallas, even though Skattebo still had like 13 points with that goal line carry and the touchdown. Tyron Tracy this season has been wildly inefficient. 10 carries Week 1 for 2.4 yards per carry, 5 carries against Dallas for only 3 yards per carry. He salvaged his day with those 4 receptions for 36 yards. And again, on a yards per reception basis, it just was nothing really to write home about. So with Tyron Tracy, I do think from here on out, we're going to be not just looking at him as a consistent sit and a disappointment, but a guy that is just going to be playing second fiddle to a guy like Cam Skattebo in that offense who just looks more explosive. He's the new guy there. He has better, more consistent receiving capability, I think, long-term than Tyron Tracy demonstrated in Week 2. And again, that snap share going down from 74% Week 1 to 42%. This was very quick. This was essentially overnight, and I expect this to be less against Kansas City in Week 3.
My second sit of the week is going to be somebody that I have on my Flock League roster that I'm not touching with a 39.5-foot pole, and that is Matthew Golden. I drafted Matthew Golden too early, it looks like, and I think a lot of people are going to maybe try to put Matthew Golden in the lineup because, number one, it's a decent matchup against the Cleveland Browns, a Browns defense that has allowed a lot of points to wide receivers so far this year, but also you have Jaden Reed breaking his collarbone. He has a Jones fracture in his foot. I think a lot of people are going to be like, oh, somebody has to step up there. I'm going to put Matthew Golden. This is his week. Personally, look, if Matthew Golden catches a touchdown this week, that'd be fine. Like, I still don't think he's going to have more than 12 points in this matchup because I don't think he's going to get more than 4 targets here. And so, realistically, a lot of people I think are going to be tempted to start the rookie. I'm going to sit him until he actually proves that he can get a decent target volume. I'm not sure that day is ever going to come at this point, so I'm just going to sit Matthew Golden.
This one's a little ballsy, but I'm going to stick to my guns here. Jerry Jeudy, I'm going to list as a sit, a guy that I'm not super pumped about starting this week, going against the Green Bay defense, and that's going to be the main reason why. You look at the matchup against Cincinnati and Baltimore, weeks 1 and 2, 8 targets respectively. He's been fine with his opportunity in terms of efficiency, 66 and 51 yards on 5 and 4 catches, just no touchdowns. So he's kind of salvaged his day with his target volume and efficiency there with 11 and 9 points. You'd be like, okay, this dude's a touchdown away from being in the teens. You're absolutely right. I could look stupid after making this call and saying don't flex Jerry Jeudy, but Green Bay scares the crap out of me. Green Bay shut down Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jamison Williams in the same game. Oh, and by the way, you had pedestrian performances by Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery in that same offense as well. I think they're going to pressure the crap out of Joe Flacco. I don't think he's going to be able to do anything in this matchup. I think it's going to be pretty ugly, a low-scoring game for Cleveland overall. If they're going to get anything done, honestly, I would bet on Quinshawn, Ford, and Sampson before I bet on Tillman or Jerry Jeudy in this offense.
Okay, so this one might seem a little bit crazy because of the way that the Colts have been giving up points to second-string wide receivers. But Elkai Manor, the wide receiver 2 in the Tennessee Titans offense, is going to be my last sit of the week. I think a lot of people are going to be very tempted to throw him in the lineup given the matchup, given the fact that he did score 15 points last week. But keep in mind, he's not converting. 7 targets, 2 receptions his first week, 6 targets, 4 receptions in week 2. He had a touchdown last week, so that definitely helped. I'm not quite convinced that he's going to get the volume yet to support him as a weekly flexible option. My guess is against Indianapolis. He's projected 12 points. My guess is going to come in under that. I'm going to sit him this week. I'm not comfortable starting him just yet until we see a larger sample size with Alec Iomanor.
Travis Hunter's my last guy. This is basically me just making a statement, guys. If we can't count on Brian Thomas Jr. having consistently productive weeks right now, how can we flex comfortably Travis Hunter? Just seriously, genuine question. How can we do it? Until Brian Thomas Jr. can figure out how to produce, ain't no way I'm comfortable starting Travis Hunter, who is schematically the wide receiver 2 there. And that is the reality. Trevor Lawrence needs to figure his crap out as well. That offense as a whole just needs to figure it out. And I'm not saying they won't down the line, but for the foreseeable future, until Travis Hunter shows any semblance of good, solid production, I'm not optimistic that he's going to do anything for me in my flex for now. So the matchup for him going on this week is Houston, and that doesn't make me feel any better. They've been shutting down some really solid wide receivers the first 2 weeks of the season.
Let's talk about our wide receiver matchups now, and I'll start with you. I'm going to go T. Higgins against the Minnesota Vikings this week, or Devonta Smith against the Los Angeles Rams, both in the F-tier force. Go. And go. Pick your pick.
Browning has more volume. I'll take the wide receiver 2 with more volume over the wide receiver 2 that with the team that likes to run the ball more. I don't like either matchup. I am scared of the Rams. I think they have a good defense. And I am also scared of a Joe Burrow-less Cincinnati Bugles team. And I'm still going to go with Higgins.
It is a better matchup for Higgins, technically. The Minnesota Vikings technically a better matchup than the Rams in terms of secondary. I'll go T. Higgins as well this week. I wish I had T. Higgins right now instead of Devonta Smith on my Flock League team, but it's fine, whatever. Ricky Pearsall or Keenan Allen this week. This one's interesting because Keenan Allen has kind of developed into a must-start guy. He's going against Denver, though. Denver's secondary, I know. Denver's secondary is not that great. When you're comparing him against Ricky Pearsall, they've got the Arizona Cardinals this week. Not a bad matchup for Ricky Pearsall either. And so
that's what makes it really tough.
Yeah, Ricky, they're both in the G tier for us. I'm going to say Keenan Allen's the safer start right now. They're throwing the ball a lot. He got a better. I mean, Keenan Allen has his quarterback. Like, I got to go Keenan Allen.
Pearsall's getting the same amount of volume as Keenan Allen, and Keenan Allen is producing at a higher level more consistently until Greg Roman decides to do what Greg Roman has been doing for the last decade plus.
For his entire life.
I feel like you have to flex Keenan Allen.
Greg Roman was in the womb calling running plays. Yeah, I do not understand. I do not get it. He's like, Greg Roman finally.
Legitimately, like the biggest shock of all the things I was the most confident in this season, I was like, there ain't no wide receiver producing past Lab McConkey in the Chargers offense.
Greg Roman's always been like, I'm going to run the ball. And they're like, you know what we're going to do? We're going to get Greg a first round running back. And he got Hampton. He was like,
Keenan.
Nah.
Get it to Keenan.
Yeah, let's throw the ball. DJ Moore or Chris Olave this week. I think you know my answer to this. Dang, that's actually really tough.
This is why I picked these, because these are the start sits that we're struggling with
DJ
right now.
Moore in the G tier this week, Chris Olave in the G tier. Chris Olave is a wide receiver 1. I still have to go Chris Olave. I still have to go guaranteed volume.
100%
I didn't even go Chris Olave on my must starts because I thought it was too obvious. So.
We need to stop agreeing. But Chris Olave literally is doubling DJ Moore's target volume through the first 2 weeks of the season. Doubling. You cannot turn that down compared to DJ Moore. That's a 2 in an offense versus a 1 in an offense that does have to pass the ball a lot because they're down a lot.
Yeah.
So I think he's going to be fine.
I think you go Olave there. And then last, we did this one already. I think earlier in the season, Calvin Ridley or Deebo Samuel. Let's see if we get it right this time.
Yeah. So I'm actually, even though Deebo is technically the 2 in his offense and there is no Daniels, I think that Deebo Samuel's, honestly, I think his floor is a little bit higher this week than Terry's is. Terry's ceiling every week is always going to be higher than Deebo's. But this week specifically with Marcus Mariota, we know his limitations as a passer, who is objectively the easier target in that offense at the wide receiver position.
It's Deebo.
It's Deebo 100% and Zach Ertz as well. I think Ertz is going to have a good day. Okay. But I would lean Deebo this week.
Jordan Mason versus DeAndre Swift at running back position. I'm going to go Jordan Mason here. DeAndre Swift is banged up, so he hasn't necessarily been practicing. In terms of the matchup, obviously DeAndre Swift has Dallas. That's a decent matchup. And then, I would still probably lean Jordan Mason just because you don't have Aaron Jones there. Just because I think they're going to lean on him anyways because of the fact they don't have J.J. McCarthy as well as not having Aaron Jones. And so I'll go Jordan Mason this week. Playing the Bengals. Bengals defense absolutely freaking blows. And so I think he's a must start for me this week. I'm going to go Mason.
My gut's going My gut's going the other way. I think I'm going to Swifty because
I'm gonna win that one.
yeah, you may win that one. But with Mason 15 carries week 1, you'd be like, oh, that should be a really good day. 8 points. He doesn't really get any receiving usage.
Didn't get a touchdown.
There's no Aaron Jones. He didn't have a touchdown. You are playing Cincinnati, which is a really good matchup. So I could eat my words there, but for whatever reason, I just feel better about Swifty this week going up against Dallas.
JCM or Quinshon, Mr. Boy?
So Krosky Merritt, you've got your matchup again against Vegas this week where they just shut down Omari and Hampton. And Quinshon, who had 10 points on 30% snap share. Krosky Merritt only had 22% snap share last week with Austin Eckler in that offense before he went down with the injury. Still only 22% target share.
Yeah, he was not looking good
snap share.
in terms of...
He was not looking good. I'm going to go with a better looking running back who only had 2 practices. I'm going to take Quinshon. I know he's playing Green Bay, but these are 2 tough matchups, which is why I picked them. And this is why I'm struggling because Green Bay's really tough, but Vegas just shut down Hampton. Like, shut him down. And
it's true.
I gotta go. I gotta go with the team that has the more talented running back. Like Quinshon's just more talented, right?
He is. So I'm gonna go Quinshon as well. I think I have to lean. Quinshon had they gave him 5 snaps last week. And he scored
10 points.
Yeah, I mean, legit looked awesome. So I'm gonna go with Quinshon as well. And then Nick Chubb versus Cam Skattebo. Look, I have Skattebo as a man this week playing the Kansas City Chiefs. Tough matchup, and we also don't know if he's gonna run that backfield yet. And then Nick Chubb I have as a man because but it is a better matchup for Chubb. I'm gonna go Chubb this week. Chubb's gonna be my pick here.
Chubble.
Yeah, I just the matchup is much better against the Jaguars. The Jaguars allowed the second most amount of points to running backs last year in fantasy football. Chubb has continued to, while he's not getting the lion's share there, he is getting all the carries that matter, and that included last week a long touchdown run. Wasn't super efficient, but it was a tough defense against Tampa Bay. This Jacksonville defense is a lot more buttery. I think he'll slice through him. I'm going Nick Chubb.
That's funny. I'm going to go with Cam Skattebo. I think Kansas City's defense is interesting right now, to say the least. And I think Cam Skattebo getting that increased workload, who knows, we could go from 52% to 70% this week. And if that's the case, he's getting 20+% more snap share than Nick Chubb is, then I'm starting Cam Skattebo. So I'm gonna bet on the upside with Scat this week.
Pitts or Njoku?
Oh, golly. Probably. So with your matchups, you got Pitts going up against Carolina. I'm going to take the better matchup against Carolina. He's got 8 and 5 targets the first 2 weeks of the season, and Njoku has 6 and 5 against Green Bay. So I'm going to take Pitts. I'm
with you. I'm going to go Kyle Pitts there. So we'll see what happens this week in terms of who wins our competition. But if you enjoy the video, again, make sure you drop a like. Make sure you're also subscribed if you enjoy fantasy football content and also helps the channel. We appreciate you guys for watching. Good luck in week 3, and we will see you in week 4. Peace out.